All right. Okay, this morning I was thinking about, people in my life, that were always sort of worried. And it's like if I told them that their worry wasn't welcome, somehow like they didn't feel like they were, like that I was telling them that essentially that their love was not welcome, or that they weren't welcome. And so it made me think about, well, what is worry? Worry is like, requires something to be worried about, and so worry always requires a story, so if there's so if someone has a desire to worry and suddenly there's nothing to worry about, it's very likely that they will come up with something to worry about, regardless of what reality, of how little there is to be worried about. Because, if worry is sort of what they equate with somehow their autonomy, their sense of self, their ability to give and receive love, then, because if they feel uncomfortable about love without worry being present, it's like somehow they need this worry, this story that creates worry, in order that they can serve a purpose that is useful. Because without, being useful, they're not really allowed to. Without being useful through worry, then they're not really allowed to exist. Essentially, they're not allowed, or like not invited to exist in relationship to you. It's like you're telling them to fuck off and go away. If you tell them to stop worrying, because the worry is fucking annoying and it's like unwarranted. So, like sometimes, but if somebody has worry, like in order for love to take place, and they don't allow themselves to feel love unless they're worried in some way, worry is sort of like their portal in order to experience love. And so by telling them to stop worrying so much, it's almost like you're telling them to stop loving you. And it makes them very, it can make them very feel very unwelcome and sort of useless and despondent. Because, to the person who's being worried about, there's nothing to worry about, and you just feel like these people are sort of in a passively aggressive way undermining your confidence and trying to get you to put your attention on molehills and turning them into mountains, and then being paralyzed by life because look, have you considered this, have you considered that, well, you should really do something about this, it's really important. If you don't do it, it's meanwhile it's yeah, but you don't know what I know. and I'm taking care of myself. And no, I don't tell you all the details about how I achieve that, but I have more abundance and access to things that would offend you if I told you about them, because they would make you feel insecure and kind of useless in relationship to me, because you would realize how little I actually need you. And the only actual reason that I have you in my life is because I love you, despite your obnoxious qualities. And no, you don't actually provide me anything, because I don't require you to provide me anything. I don't need anything from you to love you. I love you the way you are. I'm happy with you the way you are. You don't have to provide me with a service or function in order for me to see the beautiful being inside of you that is there, despite all of the ugly, crap that you cover yourself in. So you don't need to do anything. You just, maybe be a little bit less annoying, and then we can spend more time together. But anyhow, so the point is, that's sort of what I was thinking about. And then that sort of got me thinking about, the portal to love. And it's so, like, different people have different sort of requirements for themselves to experience love. So there's like different portals to love. So I'm gonna go into some like things that are gonna sound like a bit controversial. So if you like stop the video mid-sentence here, it's gonna probably sound kind of fucked up. So you should probably hear me out if you really like want to understand what I'm saying. So I suppose I'll try to start with the softer examples before I go into like the more fucked up ones. So for some people, experiencing love would be like they would allow themselves to experience love if there was world peace. Once there's world peace, then we can all love each other. Then we will be one, and then I can feel good. Until then, I'm going to keep on working, and I'm going to, put my nose to the grindstone, and I'm going to do whatever I can, in order to achieve world peace, and then I can love. For others, it's like, that's like one portal. Another portal would be, I'm going to do community service. I'm going to go to the soup kitchen and I'm going to feed homeless people. And then, I can experience love. Another person might be like, I'm going to spend time with my grandchildren and I'm going to read them bedtime stories. And then I can experience love. So these are all portals to experiencing love. Now we're all like okay with the more benevolent ones, but they're still essentially, they're still the portal that stands between them and love. There's a requirement for them to experience love. They need to do the thing, otherwise they feel something, attention within themselves. And so what I like to do is, I like to sort of flip this a little bit to get a more complete understanding of, why it's sort of important to understand this requirement, this portal that stands between us and love, because there's different portals. Like I've already mentioned, worrying is some people's portal so that they can feel that they've done something that allows them to experience love. And that is like, that one's annoying, but it's not quite as malicious perhaps as some of the other ones, that the ones that I'm going to mention now. Some people, they'll do drugs. They do drugs, and then they can sort of like have that catharsis, and then they can experience love. Other people have, domestic abuse. They beat their spouse, and then they're like, now their anger is dissipated, and now they can love their spouse again. Or they beat their children, and they say, it's because I love you that I beat you. Well, no, it's because you feel tension inside, and you're afraid of how much you hate your children until you discharge that negative energy, that we could call it negative energy, and then you can love your children again. And so it's like, and then for others, it's like a pretty face. When I see a pretty face, then I can experience love. When I see someone beautiful, then I can experience love. Then I can feel comfortable enough to experience love. And so it's like, it's a portal. We all have our different portals. Some people are into like some really weird, fucked up shit that is what they require themselves to do. Like some people require themselves to go to like religious ceremonies on the regular basis, and then they can experience love for God. Then they can experience love. There's like this requirement, this contingency. And so like what I'm wanting to point out here is the unspoken feeling. The unspoken feeling of the thing that we feel when we are about to try to make that bridge between us and love. The different things that I've mentioned here, the different portals, the worry, the beauty, the feeling, like the hatred that we feel that we need to discharge. These requirements that are like the step that we take in order to feel love again. But before we take that step, there's something else. There's an experience. There's an experience that we feel uncomfortable about. It's an experience that is almost like we're uncomfortable about in relationship to love. And in order to feel love, we have some requirement, some duty, some emotional release, so that now we can love again. So that we can feel peace, so that we can feel whole, so that we can feel connected to our wife, so that we can feel connected to our children, to our family, our spouse, the people in our life. And so it's that feeling that is standing in between you and love that I think is very interesting to pay attention to. Because what if we were just with that feeling instead of requiring some action to be taken in the material world? This discomfort that we feel between us and the release that allows us to experience love. Can we love that feeling instead? Can we be with the feeling and hold it? Hold that feeling like it's our child without the requirement for there to be a portal, some story that we generate, some journey that we go on to go from not love to love. To pay attention to that is interesting because that's a lot of energy there, And so if we can understand what that feeling is when we, our mind wants to suddenly fill with worry, to get away from that feeling, fill with rage, to get away from that feeling, fill with lust to get away from that feeling, fill